24 hours after Justin Trudeau made the announcement that he was going to spend 4.5 billion Canadian tax dollars that he doesn't have to buy a 60-year-old pipeline, and in doing so, giving a Texas company $4.5 billion to spend on pipelines in countries outside of Canada, he decided to send his finance minister to the heart of the energy sector, Calgary, Alberta, to speak in front of about 500 people associated with the energy industry to talk about this latest crazy development. So I'm actually in my Calgary office today. I decided to come out here to listen to this speech because I wanted to see if Bill Morneau would actually give some information on a few key points that I'll make in a moment. But first, I attended the Rally for Resources ahead of this speech. It was really nice to see a couple of hundred people come out in support of the energy industry. We always see these anti-pipeline protests make the news, but I was really honored to be able to speak in front of this group of people and thank them for their work to give energy sector workers a voice in Canada. So I was able to do that this morning. But then I went to go and listen to this speech. Here's what I was interested in hearing. First of all, how much is it going to actually cost this crown corporation that Justin Trudeau is going to create to build the pipeline? We have no idea how much the construction cost is. The $4.5 billion that he's spending is just to buy the existing pipeline. Bill Morneau has given no details about how much the construction is going to cost or when it's going to actually begin. The other thing that I wanted to hear from Bill Morneau was whether he was finally going to do what he should have done months and months ago, Justin Trudeau, and that is figure out how he's going to enforce federal jurisdiction to actually get the thing built. Ownership was never the issue. Trans Mountain was going to be built by Kinder Morgan with private sector dollars, not anymore. All Justin Trudeau had to do was start to give some certainty to investors that this thing would get built out. So I was looking for Bill Morneau to say, okay, we're going to invoke Section 9210C of the Constitution to make sure that the BC government can't block construction by blocking things like permits for, let's say, the build out of roads to the construction site. Didn't hear an announcement about that. The other thing that I was looking for from Bill Morneau was some information about how the government was planning on enforcing the rule of law with regard to the protests that are happening. No information there either. I also wanted to hear if Bill Morneau was going to create some investment certainty in Canada. So do something like repeal the carbon tax or let's say talk about the negative impacts of the things like their tanker ban or the fact that they vetoed Northern Gateway after it went through years of environmental review process, or just frankly even say that the energy sector is super important to the Canadian economy and refute Justin Trudeau's statement that he made in France that we should phase out the energy sector. But no, they said nothing like that. And I wish you could have been in the room because it was silent. Now, you have to realize I'm around Justin Trudeau and Bill Morneau a lot, much to my chagrin. They're used to rooms of people that just they love to be loved, right? Like that's why they're in politics. They just want to be loved and they can't understand it when people don't love them. And this room did not love them because these are all people who understand that probably the most significant thing that happened when Justin Trudeau said that he was nationalizing the pipeline is exactly that. He sent a message to the investment community around the world saying, you know what? The government is going to do everything in Canada. The government is going to, I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that Justin Trudeau nationalizing this pipeline is one step towards really socializing Canada. I've talked to friends around the world in the last 24 hours and they're like, oh, Canada's kind of socialist. It's hard to refute. And I'm very concerned about that because in order for our economy to continue to grow, we need to make sure that we're attracting foreign direct investment. Bill Morneau touched on this a little bit in his speech. He actually said, well, we're looking at the changes that the American government have made to their tax structure as well as to regulatory structure. That's great that they're looking at it from a competitiveness perspective, but then why is he continuing to change the review process for major natural resource projects when we already have one of the most stringent ones in the world? Why is he adding a carbon tax? Why is he increasing regulatory burden? Why is he putting new payroll taxes in place? I could go on and on. The reality is that Bill Morneau came out and it was a super brief speech. I think it was like 7 minutes long. And I've never seen someone get off a stage as fast as that. There were no questions. It was like the little road runner burst, he was like, bye. And he had this little flurry of staffers come after him. Didn't take questions, didn't give any more details. And I think that's very bad news for Canadian taxpayers. Premier Rachel Notley awkwardly followed him. Also didn't give any more details. She was really trying to pump the room up like, yes, this is a big win. We did it. But what's been done here? There's no detail on how this pipeline is going to get built out, or more importantly, how much it's going to cost, right? We have to start talking about the opportunity cost of $4.5 billion being spent on a pipeline when a private company was going to build this 24 hours ago. Kinder Morgan's never asked for a bailout. All Kinder Morgan's been looking for is some certainty that the federal government was going to take a leadership role and do the things I mentioned at the earlier part of this video to get this thing built out. And we didn't even hear about that today. And, both of these politicians, all of these politicians are missing the bigger point here, and they're missing the bigger picture. And it really frightens me that, when you think about the cabinet table, sort of being the board of directors table for a G7 country, that they approved this money without any sort of detail around who's going to buy it, over what time period, what the costs are, who's going to build it. Is it going to be a Crown Corporation and Crown Corporation employees? That has a lot of cost to Canadian taxpayers, and we have no idea how much that's going to be or where the money is even going to come from, right? I mean, Bill Morneau has just basically been like the fun coupon budget, fun coupons, right? It blew my mind that this man who purports to be the finance minister, I think he'll go down as the worst finance minister in Canadian history, stood in front of some really serious people in downtown Calgary and then said basically the equivalent of this, nothing. I've never heard a Calgary chamber room so quiet as it was today. So you can read some of the live tweets I sent from there. Today in Calgary too, I also had some other meetings and I did some radio as well to try and get this message out. I want to encourage you all to sign the petition, use92.ca, to encourage the federal government to invoke Section 9210C of the Constitution Act in order to ensure that federal jurisdiction is enforced so that this pipeline can get built out. There is a bill in front of the Senate that's going to do exactly this. Of course, Justin Trudeau won't talk about that. I'm not sure if Justin Trudeau actually wants to see this thing built. We shall see, but certainly the announcement that we're spending billions of dollars with no plan in sight is no victory. So to all of you who have come out to the rallies, I want to thank you for raising your voice or signing these petitions. But the battle, there has been no victory yet. And I really think the battle has just begun. So I flew in this morning. I am going to be flying back to Ottawa tonight so I can get into the House again tomorrow and continue to hold this government to account on this and every other issue that I possibly can, including the illegal border crossing crisis. So working hard for you in Calgary on my way back to Ottawa. Have a great day.